There is polymorphous dualism in Frankenstein. To begin with, there is dualism in the genre, as it is a Gothic as well as a philosophical novel. We can see a typical modernist feature, integration of absolute polarities, because, even if the Gothic and the philosophical genre remain in contrast, the Gothic degeneration is the source of the science and social critique and the several philosophical interpretations that the novel has. Furthermore, we can also see that, through the creator and the creation, Victor and the monster, Mary Shelley criticizes the theological dualism between good and evil, as they are both linked through science. As the plot develops, the reader discovers that the monster is the character that shows the most human feelings of love, treason, revenge, or regret, and that he becomes evil because whenever he tries to be kind with humans, he is rejected and tried to murder. Therefore, due to the abandonment of Victor and the human race, and after Victor decides not to create a partner for him, he decides to get revenge. The monster represents Rousseau's philosophy that society corrupts the individual, as the monster is born with the tabula rasa. Therefore, the dualism that represents the creator and the creation, which is an analogy of God and the human race, is a social and religious critique.
Apart from that, there is also an obvious dualism between life and death, which through science they are linked, stealing from God the power of death. This represents a critique of the human ethics of science at the time, as they destroyed nature for the sake of unnatural knowledge. Nature is also present in the novel, and we can see the power of the sublime in it. The places where Victor travels, Scotland, the Swiss Alps, or the Arctic, are beautiful as well as dangerous places, and it is in natural places where the monster usually murders, representing the sublime. As we can see, there is a dualism between nature and the human intellect, or between God and the human race, depending if we understand the dualism in romantic or Christian terms.
This is also represented through the fire-ice dichotomy in the cyclic structure, as the plot begins on the ice. Then we move to the fire of science and the story ends on the ice. The ice represents paradise, and it could represent heaven, a higher and pure dimension characterized by the pureness of white. This reminds me of Herman Melville's Moby Dick, as he used the same symbol, whiteness, implying purification in the whale and ice. Victor and the monster are related to the idea of fire, which represents independent and ambitious knowledge, as the fire enlightens and warms us, but it can be artificial, unnatural, and dangerous. Furthermore, we have a dialectic in the middle and at the end of the story between the two parts that form the dualism. This dialectic represents life and death, ambition and restraint, or in Freudian terms, the idea in contrast to the superego. When they are in the glacier of Mount Blanc, in the cave of ice, they light a fire and the monster talks with Victor. About his story, we can see that the two parts of each dualism merge, nature and human creation, the creator and the creation, fire and ice. Finally, we have the dialectic at the end, as the monster wants to burn Victor and himself in the ice, merging physically all the elements of dualism mentioned before, and integrating all the absolute polarities as a source of purification. In the same way that Percy wanted to merge with nature.
It is important to refer to the genre to understand the novel Frankenstein as a critique. Frankenstein is not a classic Gothic novel, as it is mainly philosophical and represents dualisms like the conflict between life and death. There are also several characteristics of science fiction, because it is through the fiction of science that the monster is created. It is an allegory of Mary's life, and also about the need that humans have to control everything. It goes beyond the idea of allegory and postulates the first features of science fiction. As there is a rational explanation that could be achieved through science that creates the monster. This novel has a constant pessimistic tone, as we know from the beginning that a tragedy has happened and that it is not finished. This pessimistic tone is a resource that Shelley uses to represent human science and social critique. Frankenstein is not a didactic novel as there are several interpretations possible.
Frankenstein is a social critique of the social and scientific ethics of that period that went against the ruling principles of nature. This was mainly due to the Industrial Revolution, which constrained and oppressed humans and the old and corrupted institutions. We can see that the author employs Gothic degeneration to represent the human decadence of British society. Moreover, Romantics viewed nature as an escape from industrial captivity, as a key to freedom that released people from the unnatural rhythm that the society had imposed based on industrial needs. Furthermore, the Enclosure Act became a wall to freedom for the Romantics. The Enclosure Act was a decision that the government took to enclose the lands by building hedges and paths. Furthermore, nature had a nostalgic factor for the Romantics, as they remembered old times when freedom was given by nature, previous to the Industrial Revolution.
We can see that Mary criticizes religion through the de Lacy family, especially through Safie, wisdom, and Felix, happiness. They represent the Islamic and Christian religions, and because of the appearance of the monster, they both behave in the opposite way as they are supposed to behave, according to their religion. As they discriminate against the monster for his physical condition. On the other hand, M. de Lacy is the only character who respects the monster because he is blind. It could paradoxically imply that he did not have blind faith and that he got the capacity to think and question religion. It is also a social critique as the main characters of the novel, the creator, and the creation, have become ostracized and feel abandoned. Probably Shelley wanted to imply how the English society treated people that did not follow the canons or the strict rules that governed the society.